Hello, welcome to Bloomsday 2020. I'm Peter Nalle, chairman of the Rosenbach Museum and Library. You know, we at the Rosenbach here have been reading Ulysses on the steps of the museum for almost 30 years now. Obviously, we are not live on the steps this year, but we do hope that you will enjoy this year's virtual reading. The Rosenbach, as you may know, offers a wide variety of lively programs, exhibits, and courses in literature and in history, all based on the library's world-class, extensive holdings of rare books and manuscripts. I invite you to visit us at rosenbach.org to see if there isn't something there that piques your own interests. If so, please just wander in, virtually of course, and join up. I'm certain you'll enjoy the experience, and if you do, we would welcome whatever support you feel you can give during these strange, disturbing, and very difficult times. I do hope that you'll enjoy Bloomsday 2020. We certainly enjoyed putting it together for you. Thank you very much.
Hello and happy Bloomsday. This is our virtual Bloomsday, brought to you by the Rosenbach Museum and Library and my good friends here at St. Stephen's Green in downtown Center City, Philadelphia. I'm Robert Berry, and
I'm Paul Saint-Amour. I teach over at the University of Pennsylvania, and I live around the corner. Do you think we can do this without masks, Rob, or we can keep it physically distant?
I think we can keep this far apart, but we can't drink our beer.
I'm all for drinking the beer. So, Rob,
That was blue moldy for want of that pint.
declare to God, I could feel it hit the pit of my stomach with a click. What are you going to miss about regular Bloomsday this year? I mean, normally right about now we'd be rolling up onto Delancey Street and pulling up a lawn chair and settling down for a long summer's read. And instead, here we are, just the two of us in the basement of this lovely pub.
I missed the beer tent. The beer tent was good.
The beer tent was mighty.
No, I mean, this is a book that I've been working with for over a decade, that I have been going to Philadelphia Bloomsdays and Bloomsdays across the world for 20 years. And it's always been the sense of community that the book brings. It's a bit of a tough read, and people tend to remember, and admire the others who made it down the course of that with them. It's a chance to share. Some people call it a bit of snobbery, but it never really is on Bloomsday when people get to hear it and get to hear the glorious language of it.
I'm going to miss the puppets at the Rosenbach, those big puppets. And the folks at the Rosenbach, and there are people I see maybe a couple times a year, and one of them is on Delancey Street in the sunlight.
Yeah.
And the singing, the reading. In the year 2020, when a long book can shut down a city block for a day, you have something special. And I was vibing to what you were saying about community with this book. Both because it brings people together. Now, you and I met because of Ulysses, after all, right?
We did.
We've been teaching together and collaborating.
Mm-hmm.
But because, when this book was first published, it brought together readers scattered across the country, people who ordered copies of it, and some of them had to smuggle it into their home countries and read it behind the covers of, fake books, and pretend they were reading something else, whisper to other people who were reading it. So there was that kind of, secret fellowship of people who were reading this book in the early days. And I think that kind of recognition continues,
Yeah. The songs are a big part of it. You just mentioned that too, and it's like, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
They say everybody from the Academy of Vocal Arts coming and singing these songs. It's like that I'd never really heard before until I started reading and attending Bloomsdays. And they're lovely. I'm also going to miss the opportunity to meet new people and discuss themes with the book, in the book with them. That's you always meet somebody at a Bloomsday that you never knew before, and they've always got some completely specific, odd angle on the story. I love
Actor, senator,
yeah.
student, accountant.
We could talk about the literary significance of the book. I think probably the people at the Rosenbach would probably like us to do that. We'd rather talk about the community that they brought us.
I have a question for you, actually, Rob, which is, you've been tangling with this book for a long time. You've been reading it, teaching it, you've been, illustrating it and adapting it, and I want to know what Ulysses still has to give you all these years in. What keeps you coming back to it now in 2020 in the basement of St. Stephen's Green?
Art needs challenge, the same way that growth needs conflict.
Okay, so what does that mean, art needs challenge? You mean
You
your art?
need to be constantly challenged in order to continue to make art that you believe in.
So how does Ulysses challenge you as an artist?
Pick a page, man. Every page of that book is a damn challenge, and I might think you know it, and it's slippery and it's gone, and it's something else because you read something different.
I heard of a guy who was illustrating the Circe chapter of Ulysses, which is the longest, craziest chapter, and he took like a prefabricated comics book.
Nasturtium.
Yeah, and I don't know, he decided to use the constraint of these prefabricated comic frames to do a version of Circe.
Yeah, we hope to be bringing you some of that soon. So.
These are dark times. In a lot of ways, the world feels like it's in convulsion right now. With the Black Lives Matter protests, the pandemic, the election coming around the corner, and I find that this is actually one of the books that I want to go to in dark times. Both because it's singing about the dark times. Joyce wrote this book during the First World War, a lot of it, finished it in the beginning of the interwar period. So it's full of all of the trauma of those years, but it's also, I think, a work of radical pacifism and radical political hope about what the future of the nation of Ireland might look like, and the future of the world, because Leopold Bloom, after all, is an aspiring cosmopolitan. And I find a lot in this book today in 2020 that keeps me coming back when I need my own hopefulness to get replenished. You find that?
Yeah, it's a book very much about a city and a cosmopolitan city, but it's also about the ethics of living in the modern world.
Yeah. Well, shall we have a little toast?
I think we shall.
Finish
a little
up?
whiskey?
Yeah. To the big blue book and the fellow that wrote it, and to all readers of Ulysses and fans of the Rosenbach out there this year and future years, we salute you and we wish you safe and well. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hi, my name is Bethany Chisholm, and I am the manager of events at the Rosenbach. And today I am reading a passage from Chapter 8, Lestrygonians. His heart astir, he pushed in the door of the Burton restaurant. Stink gripped his trembling breath. Pungent meat juice, slop of greens, see the animals feed. Men, men, men. Perched on high stools by the bar, hats shoved back, at the tables calling for more bread, no charge. Swilling, wolfing gobfuls of sloppy food, their eyes bulging, wiping wetted mustaches. A palate-suet-faced young man polished his tumbler, knife, fork, and spoon with his napkin. New set of microbes. A man with an infant's sauce-stained napkin tucked round him shoveled gurgling soup down his gullet. A man spitting back on his plate, half-masticated gristle, no teeth to chew it. Chump chop from the grill, vaulting to get it over. Sad boozer's eyes, bitten off more than he can chew. Am I like that? See ourselves as others see us. Hungry man is an angry man. Working tooth and jaw, don't, oh, bone. That last pagan king of Ireland, Cormac, in the school poem, choked himself at slutty southward on the Boyne. Wonder what he was eating. Something galoshes. St. Patrick converted him to Christianity. Couldn't swallow it all, however. Roast beef and cabbage, one stew. Smells like men. His gorge rose. Spat on sawdust, Swedish warmish cigarette smoke, reek of plugs, split beer, men's beery piss, the stale of ferment. Couldn't eat a morsel here. Fellow sharpening his knife and fork to eat all before him. Old chap picking his toodles. Slight spasm, full, chewing the cud, before and after. Grace after meals. Look on this picture, then on that. Scoffing up stew gravy with sopping sippets of bread. Look it off the plate, man. Get out of this. He gazed round the stooled and tabled eaters, tightening the wings of his nose. 2 stouts here, 1 corned in cabbage. That fellow ramming a knife full of cabbage down as if his life depended on it. Good stroke. Give me the fidgets to look. Safer to eat from his 3 hands. Tear it limb from limb. Second nature to him. Born with a silver knife in his mouth. That's witty, I think. Or not. Silver means born rich. Born with a knife. But then the illusion is lost. An ill-girt server gathered sticky, clattering plates. Rock, the bailiff, standing at the bar, blew the foamy crown from his tankard, well up, and splashed yellow near his boot. A diner, knife and fork upright, elbows on the table, ready for a second helping, started towards the food lift across his stained square of a newspaper. Other chap telling him something, with his mouth full. Sympathetic listener. Table talk. I munch, hum, und vu, unsterbunk, und wunschste. Huh? Did you, Faith? Mr. Bloom raised his 2 fingers doubtfully to his lips. His eyes said, not here. Don't see him. Out. I hate dirty eaters. He backed towards the door. Get a light snack and Davy Burns, stopgap. Keep me going. Had a good breakfast. Roasted mash here, pint of stout. Every fellow for his own, tooth and nail. Gulp, grub, gulp, gob stuff. He came out into clear air and turned back towards Grafton Street. Eat or be eaten. Kill, kill. From all of us on the Rosenbach staff, I want to wish you a happy Bloomsday.
Hi, my name is Sadhbh Walshe, and I'm going to read a section from the Lestrygonian chapter of Ulysses, and it's the bit where Bloom goes to Davy Byrne's pub for an afternoon glass of wine and starts to think back about a memorable encounter he had with his wife before she was his wife. So here we go. Mild fire of wine kindled his veins. I wanted that badly, felt so off colour. His eyes unhungrily saw shelves of tins, sardines, gaudy lobster's claws, all the odd things people pick up for food, out of shells, periwinkles with a pin, off trees, snails out of the ground the French eat, out of the sea with bait on a hook. Silly fish learn nothing in 1,000 years. If you didn't know risky putting anything into your mouth, poisonous berries, Johnny Majories, roundness you think good, gaudy colour warns you off, one fellow told another and so on. Try it on the dog first. Led on by the smell or the look, tempting fruit, ice cones, cream, instinct, orange groves for instance, need artificial irrigation, Bleibtraustrasse. Yes, but what about oysters, unsightly like a clot of phlegm, filthy shells, devil to open them too, who found them out? Garbage, sewage they feed on. Fizz and red bank oysters effect on the sexual aphrodis. He was in the red bank this morning. Was he oysters old fish at table, perhaps he young flesh in bed, no June has, no are no oysters. But there are people like things high, tainted game, jugged hare, first catcher hare, Chinese eating eggs 50 years old, blue and green again, dinner of 30 courses, each dish harmless, might mix inside, idea for a poison mystery. That Archduke Leopold, was it? No, yes, or was it Otto, one of those Habsburgs? Or was it used to, who was it used to eat the scruff off his own head? Cheapest lunch in town. Of course, aristocrats. Then the others copy to be in the fashion. Millie too, rock, oil and flour. Raw pastry I like myself. Half the catch of oysters they'd throw back in the sea to keep up the price. Cheap, no one would buy. Caviar. Do the grand. Hock in green glasses. Swell blowout. Lady this. Powdered bosom pearls. The elite. Creme de la creme. They want special dishes to pretend they're hermit with a platter of pulse. Keep down the stings of the flesh. Know me, come eat with me. Royal sturgeon, high sheriff coffee. The butcher, right to venisons of the forest from his ex. Sent him back the half of a cow. Spread I saw down in the masters of the rolls kitchen area. White-hatted chef like a rabbi. Combustible duck. Curly cabbage à la Duchesse de Parme. Just as well to write it on the bill of fare so you know what you've eaten. Too many drugs spoil the broth. I know it myself. Dosing it with Edward's desiccated soup. Geese stuffed silly for them. Lobsters boiled alive. Do partake some ptarmigan. Wouldn't mind being a waiter in a swell hotel. Tips, evening dress, half-naked ladies. May I tempt you to a little more filleted sole, Miss Dubedat? Yes, Dubedat. And she did, bedad. Huguenot name, I expect that. And Miss Dubedat lived in Killiney. I remember. Du de la is French. Still, it's the same fish perhaps old Mickey Hanlon of Moore Street ripped the guts out of, making money hand over fist in fish's gills, can't write his name on a cheque, think he was painting the landscape with his mouth twisted. Mookill, I hate ya. Ha, ignorant as a kish of brogues worth £50,000. Stuck on the pane. 2 flies buzzed, stuck. Glowing wine on his palate lingered, swallowed, crushing in the winepress grapes of Burgundy. Sun's heat it is, seems to a secret touch telling me memory. Touched his senses moistened, remembered. Hidden under wild ferns on Howth, below us bay, sleeping, sky, no sound, the sky. The bay purple by the lion's head, green by Drumleck, yellow-green towards Sutton, fields of undersea, the lines faint brown in grass, buried cities. Pillowed on my coat she had her hair, earwigs in the heather scrub, my hand under her nape. You'll toss me all. Oh, wonder. Cool, soft with ointments, her hand touched me, caressed. Her eyes upon me did not turn away. Ravished over her I lay, full lips, full open, kissed her mouth, yum. Softly she gave me in my mouth the sea cake warm and chewed. Mawkish pulp her mouth had mumbled sweet sour of her spittle. Joy, I ate it, joy. Young life her lips that gave me pouting, soft, warm, sticky, gum jelly lips. Flowers her eyes were, take me, willing eyes. Pebbles fell, she lay still. A goat, no one. High in Ben Hoath rhododendrons, a nanny goat walking sure-footed, dropping currants. Screened under ferns, she laughed warm-folded. Wildly I lay on her, kissed her eyes, her lips, her stretched neck beating, woman's breast full in her blouse of nun's veiling, Fat nipples upright hot, I tongued her, she kissed me. I was kissed, all yielding, she tossed my hair, kissed. She kissed me. Me. And me now. Stuck the flies buzzed. His downcast eyes followed the silent veining of the oaken slab. Beauty, it curves, curves, our beauty. Shapely goddesses, Venus, Juno, curves the world admires. Can see them library museum standing in the round hall, naked goddesses, aids to digestion. They don't care what man looks, all to see, never speaking. I mean to say to fellows like Flynn, suppose she did Pygmalion and Galatea, what would she say first? Mortal. Put you in your proper place, quaffing nectar at mess with God's golden dishes, all ambrosial. Not like a tanner lunch we have, boiled mutton, carrots and turnips, bottle of old sop. Nectar, imagine it, drinking electricity, God's food. Lovely forms of women sculpted Junonian, immortal, lovely. And we stuffing food in one hole and out behind. Food, choil, blood, dung, earth, food. Have to feed it like stoking an engine. They have never looked. I look today, keeper won't see. Bend down, let something fall, see if she... Dribbling a quiet message from his bladder, came to go, to do, not to do, there to do. A man and ready, he drained his glass to the lees and walked. To men too they gave themselves, manly, conscious, lay with men lovers. A youth enjoyed her, to the yard. Thank you and happy Bloomsday from the Rosenbach.
I have been asked for some reflections on Bloomsday. I always wish I had been there for the first celebration of Bloomsday in 1954, as recorded by Anthony Cronin in his memoir, Dead as Doornails, when he, Flann O'Brien, Patrick Kavanagh and others celebrated the 16th of June with a wild day around Dublin. Coming to New York and dealing with the Rosenbach Library brought to mind the piece of Joyce writing that stuck most in my head throughout my life, which was the short poem he wrote, a limerick even, in his letter to Harriet Shaw Weaver when he was upset at the price that Dr. Rosenbach had paid for the Ulysses manuscript. Rosie Brooke bought a book but didn't know how to spell it. Such is the lure of literature to the man who can buy and sell it. We are delighted that the Rosenbach have the Ulysses manuscript, and we're delighted that you show it, and we're delighted to join the celebration with you, even in these strange COVID days.
Hi, I'm Megan Quigley. I am a visiting faculty fellow at Teddy Hall, Oxford, and in my real life, I am an associate professor of English at Villanova University, where I also teach in the Gender and Women's Studies department and in Irish Studies. I'm reading from Ulysses, Chapter 9, Scylla and Charybdis. Urbane, to comfort them, the Quaker librarian purred. And we have we not, those priceless pages of Wilhelm Meister, a great poet on a great brother poet, a hesitating soul, taking arms against a sea of troubles, torn by conflicting doubts, as one sees in real life. He came a step, a syncopace forward, on Neat's leather creaking, and a step backward, a syncopace on the solemn floor. A noiseless attendant, setting open the door, but slightly made him a noiseless beck. Directly, said he, creaking to go, albeit lingering. The beautiful, ineffectual dreamer who comes to grief against hard facts. One always feels that Goethe's judgments are so true in the larger analysis. Twice creakingly analysis he carantoed off, bald, most zealous by the door, he gave his large ear all to the attendant's words, heard them, and was gone. Two left. Monsieur de la Police, Stephen sneered, was alive 15 minutes before his death. Have you found those 6 brave medicals? John Ingleton asked with elder's gall, to write Paradise Lost at your dictation? The sorrows of Satan, he calls it. Smile. Smile Cranley's smile. First he tickled her, then he patted her, then he passed the female catheter. First he was a medical, jolly old I feel you would need one more for Hamlet. 7 is dear to the mystic mind. The shining 7, W.B. calls them. Glitter-eyed, his rufous skull close to his green-capped desk lamp, sought the face, bearded, amid dark greener shadow. An olive, holly-eyed. He laughed low, a sizar's laugh, of Trinity, unanswered. Orchestral Satan, weeping many a rude, tears such as angels weep, ed eli avia del cul fato trombeta. He holds my follies hostage. Cranley's 11 true Wickelmen to free their sireland, gap-toothed Kathleen, her 4 beautiful green fields, the stranger in her house. And one more to hail him, Ave, Rabbi, the Tinahely 12. In the shadow of the glen he coos for them. My soul's youth I gave him, night by night. Godspeed, good hunting. Mulligan has my telegram. Folly, persist. Our young Irish bards, John Ingleton censured, have yet to create a figure which the world will set upon Saxon Shakespeare's Hamlet, though I admire him, as old Ben did, on this side idolatry. All these questions are purely academic, Russell oracled out of his shadow. I mean, whether Hamlet is Shakespeare or James I or Essex, clergymen's discussions of the historicity of Jesus. Art has to reveal to us ideas, formless, spiritual essences. The supreme question about a work of art is, out of how deep a life does it spring? The painting of Gustave Moreau is the painting of ideas. The deepest poetry of Shelley, the words of Hamlet, bring our minds into contact with the eternal wisdom. Plato's world of ideas. All the rest is the speculation of schoolboys for schoolboys. A.E. has been telling some Yankee interviewer, well, tarnation strike me. The schoolmen were schoolboys first, Stephen said super politely. Aristotle was once Plato's schoolboy, and has remained one, so one should hope, John Ingleton sedately said. One can see him, a model schoolboy with his diploma under his arm. He laughed again at the now smiling, bearded face. Formless spiritual? Father? Word and holy breath? All Father, the heavenly man, Jesus Christos, magician of the beautiful, the Logos who suffers in us at every moment. This verily is that. I am the fire upon the altar. I am the sacrificial butter. Dunlop, judge, the noblest Roman of them all, A.E. Arval, the name ineffable. In heaven height, K.H., their master, whose identity is no secret to adepts. The Christ with the bride's sister, moisture of light, born of the ensouled virgin. Repentant Sophia departed to the plane of the Budai. The life esoteric is not for the ordinary person. O.P. must work off bad karma first. Mrs. Cooper Oakley once glimpsed our very illustrious sister, H.P.B.'s elemental. Oh, fie. Out on it. Foy Teufel. You noughtn't to look, missus, so you noughtn't when a lady's a showing of her elemental. Mr. Best entered, tall, young, mild, light. He bore in his hand with grace a notebook, new, large, clean, bright. That model schoolboy, Stephen said, would find Hamlet's musings about the afterlife of his princely soul, the improbable, insignificant and undramatic monologue, as shallow as Plato's. John Ingleton, frowning, said, waxing wroth, "Upon my word, it makes my blood broil to hear anyone compare Aristotle with Plato." Which of the two, Stephen asked, would have banished me from his commonwealth? Unsheath your dagger definitions. Hoarseness is the whatness of all horse. Streams of tendency and eons they worship. God, noise in the street, very peripateutic. Space, what you damn well have to see. Through spaces smaller than red globules of man's blood, they creepy crawl after Blake's buttocks into eternity, of which this vegetable world is but a shadow. Hold to the now, the here, through which all futures plunges to the past. Mr. Best came forward, amiable, towards his colleague. Haynes is gone, he said. Is he? I was showing him Jubenvale's book. He's quite enthusiastic, don't you know, about Hyde's love songs of Connacht. I couldn't bring him to hear the discussion. He's gone to Gill's to buy it. Bound thee forth my booklet quick to greet the callous public. Writ, I ween, 'twas not my wish, in lean, unlovely English. The peat smoke is going to his head, John Ingleton opined. We feel in England. Penitent thief. Gone. I smoked his baccy. Green, twinkling stone. An emerald set in the ring of the sea. Happy Bloomsday from the Rosenbach.
Hello, I'm Jared Reed, and I'm reading from episode 9, Scylla and Charybdis. He will have it that Hamlet is a ghost story, John Eglinton said for Mr. Best's behoof. Like the fat boy in Pickwick, he wants to make our flesh creep. List, list, oh list, my flesh hears him, creeping hears. If thou didst ever. What is a ghost? Stephen said with tingling energy. One who has faded into impalpability through death, through absence, through change of manners. Elizabethan London lay as far from Stratford as corrupt Paris lies from virgin Dublin. Who is the ghost from Limbo Patrum, returning to the world that has forgotten him? Who is King Hamlet? John Eglinton shifted his spare body, leaning back to judge, lifted. It is this hour of a day in mid-June, Stephen said, begging with a swift glance their hearing. The flag is up on the playhouse by the bankside. The bear sacristan growls in the pit near it, Paris Garden. Canvas climbers who sailed with Drake chew their sausages among the groundlings. Local color, work in all you know, make them accomplices. Shakespeare has left the Huguenot's house in Silver Street and walks by the Swan Mews along the riverbank, but he does not stay to feed the pen, chivying her game of signets towards the rushes. The Swan of Avon has other thoughts. Composition of place. Ignatius Loyola, make haste to help me. The play begins. A player comes on under the shadow, made up in the cast-off mail of a court buck, a well-set man with a bass voice. It is the ghost, the king, a king and no king, and the player is Shakespeare, who has studied Hamlet all the years of his life, which were not vanity in order to play the part of the spectre. He speaks the words to Burbage, the young player who stands before him beyond the rack of cerecloth, calling him by a name. Hamlet, I am thy father's spirit, bidding him list. To a son he speaks, the son of his soul, the prince, young Hamlet, and to the son of his body. Hamlet Shakespeare, who has died in Stratford that his namesake may live forever. Is it possible that that player, Shakespeare, a ghost by absence, and in the vesture of buried Denmark, a ghost by death, speaking his own words to his own son's name? Had Hamlet Shakespeare lived, he would have been Prince Hamlet's twin. Is it possible, I want to know, or probable, that he did not draw or foresee the logical conclusion of those premises? You are the dispossessed son. I am the murdered father. Your mother is the guilty Queen Anne Shakespeare-born Hathaway. But this prying into the family life of a great man, Russell began impatiently. Art thou there, true penny? Interesting only to the parish clerk. I mean, we have the plays. I mean, when we read the poetry of King Lear, what is it to us how the poet lived? As for living, our servants can do that for us, Viers de Lille has said. Peeping and prying into green room gossip of the day, the poet's drinking, the poet's debts, we have King Lear, and it is immortal. Mr. Best's face appealed to, agreed. Flow over them with your waves and with your waters, Mannanon, Mannanon, MacLear. How now, Sirrah? That pound he lent you when you were hungry. Mary, I wanted it. Take thou this noble. Go to, you spent most of it in Georgina Johnson's bed, clergyman's daughter. Agenbite of Inwit, do you intend to pay it back? Oh, yes. When? Now? Well, no. When, then? I paid my way. Steady on, he's from beyond Boynewater, the northeast corner. You owe it. Wait, 5 months. Molecules all change. I got pound, buzz, but I, entelechy, form of forms, am I by memory because under ever-changing forms, I that sinned and prayed and fasted, a child calmly saved from pandies, I, A-E-I-O-U. Do you mean to fly in the face of tradition of 3 centuries? John Eglinton's carping voice asked. Her ghost at least has been laid forever. She died for literature at least before she was born. She died, Stephen retorted, 67 years after she was born. She saw him into and out of the world. She took his first embraces. She bore his children, and she laid pennies on his eyes to keep his eyelids closed when he lay on his deathbed. Mother's deathbed, candle, the sheeted mirror. Who brought me into this world lies there, bronze-lidded, under few cheap flowers. Liliata rutilantium. I wept alone. John Eglinton looked in the tangled glowworm of his lamp. The world believes that Shakespeare made a mistake, he said, and got out of it as quickly and as best he could. Bosh, Stephen said rudely. A man of genius makes no mistakes. His errors are volitional and are the portals of discovery. Happy Bloomsday from the Rosenbach.
We're Doctors Vivian and Mark Greenberg. We live in Center City, Philadelphia.
We first became aware of the Rosenbach 4 decades ago at the time we moved to the Philadelphia area. We were intrigued by the history of the Rosenbach brothers and the fabulous collection of written works they assembled. After moving to Center City 6 years ago, the Rosenbach became one of our neighborhood libraries. We regard this treasure so highly, we decided to help ensure its longevity.
The Rosenbach is a unique scholarly resource. Through the generosity and expertise of its staff, I have been able to share its collections with my students at Drexel University. Vivian and I also enjoy the robust program of invited authors and lecturers who engage a wide range of important topics in an intimate setting. For all these reasons, we're delighted to contribute to the Rosenbach and its exceptional staff. We encourage those who enjoy books, conversation, and ideas in an historic setting to join with us in supporting this gem. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dan Hodge, and I've been asked by the Rosenbach to take part in the reading of Ulysses, and it's my pleasure to read Episode 9, Scylla and Charybdis. You will say those names are already in the chronicles from which he took the stuff of his plays. Why did he take them rather than others? Richard, a whoreson crookback, misbegotten, makes love to a widowed Anne, what's in a name, woos and wins her, a whoreson merry widow. Richard the Conqueror, 3rd brother, came after William the Conquered. The other 4 acts of that play hang limply from the first. And of all his kings, Richard is the only king unshielded by Shakespeare's reverence, the angel of the world. Why is the underplot of King Lear, in which Edmund figures, lifted out of Sidney's Arcadia and spatchcocked onto a Celtic legend older than history? Oh, that was Will's way, John Eglinton defended. We should not now combine a Norse saga with an excerpt from a novel by George Meredith. Que voulez-vous, Moore would say. He puts Bohemia on the seacoast and makes Ulysses quote Aristotle. Why? Stephen answered himself. Because the theme of the false, or the usurping, or the adulterous brother, or all three in one, is to Shakespeare what the poor are not. Always with him. The note of banishment, banishment of the heart, banishment from home, sounds uninterruptedly from the Two Gentlemen of Verona onward till Prospero breaks his staff, buries it certain fathoms in the earth, and drowns his book. It doubles itself in the middle of his life, reflects itself in another, repeats itself, prodesis, epitasis, catastasis, catastrophe. It repeats itself again when he is near the grave. When his married daughter Susan, chip of the old block, is accused of adultery. But it was the original sin that darkened his understanding, weakened his will, and left him a strong inclination to evil. The words are those of my lords bishops of Maynooth. An original sin, and, like original sin, committed by another, in whose sin he too has sinned. It is between the lines of his last written words. It is petrified on his tombstone, under which her foul bones are not to be laid. Age has not withered it. Beauty and peace have not done it away. It is in infinite variety everywhere in the world he has created, in Much Ado About Nothing, twice in As You Like It, in The Tempest, in Hamlet, in Measure for Measure, and in all the other plays which I have not read. He laughed to free his mind of his mind's bondage. Judge Eglinton summed up. The truth is midway, he affirmed. He is the ghost and the prince. He is all in all. He is, Stephen said. The boy of Act 1 is the mature man of Act 5, all in all. In Cymbeline, in Othello, he is bawd and cuckold. He acts and is acted on. Lover of an ideal or a perversion. Like Jose, he kills the real Carmen. His unremitting intellect is the horn-mad Iago, ceaselessly willing that the Moor in him shall suffer. Cuckoo, cuckoo, Buck Mulligan clucked lewdly. Oh, word of fear. Dark dome received, reverbed. And what a character is Iago, undaunted John Eglinton exclaimed. When all is said, Dumas fils, or is it Dumas père, is right. After God, Shakespeare has created most. After God, Shakespeare has created most. Man delights him not, nor woman neither, Stephen said. He returns, after a life of absence, to that spot of earth where he was born, where he has always been, man and boy, a silent witness, and there his journey of life ended. He plants his mulberry tree in the earth, then dies. The motion ended. Grave diggers bury Hamlet père and Hamlet fees. A king and a prince at last in death with incidental music. And, what though murdered and betrayed, bewept by all frail tender hearts, for Dane or Dubliner, sorrow for the dead is the only husband from whom they refuse to be divorced. If you like the epilogue, look long on it. Prosperous Prospero, the good man rewarded. Lizzie, Grandpa's lump of love. And Nuncle Richie, the bad man taken off by poetic justice to the place where the bad niggers go. Strong curtain. He found, in the world without, as actual what was in his world within as possible. Maeterlinck says, if Socrates leave his house today, he will find the sage seated on his doorstep. If Judas go forth tonight, it is to Judas his steps will tend. Every life is many days, day after day. We walk through ourselves, meeting robbers, ghosts, giants, old men, young men, wives, widows, brothers in love, but always meeting ourselves. The playwright who wrote the folio of this world, and wrote it badly, he gave us light first and the sun 2 days later, the Lord of things as they are, whom the most Roman Catholics call Dio Boia, hangman god, is doubtless all in all of us. Ostler and butcher, and would be bawd and cuckold too, but that the economy of heaven, foretold by Hamlet, there are no more marriages. Glorified man, an androgynous angel, being a wife unto himself. Eureka! Buck Mulligan cried, Eureka! Suddenly happy, he jumped up and reached in a stride John Eglinton's desk. May I, he said. The Lord has spoken to Malachi. He began to scribble on a slip of paper. Take some slips of paper from the counter going out. Those who are married, Mr. Best said, Dose Herald, all save one shall live. The rest shall keep as they are. He laughed, unmarried, at Eglinton Johannes, of arts a bachelor, unwed, Unfancied, ware of wiles, they finger-ponder nightly each his variorum edition of Taming of the Shrew. "You are a delusion," said roundly John Eglinton to Stephen. "You have brought us all this way to show us a French triangle. Do you believe your own theory?" "No," Stephen said promptly. "Are you going to write it?" Mr. Best asked. "You ought to make it a dialogue, don't you know, like the Platonic dialogues Wilde wrote." John Eclecticon doubly smiled. "Well, in that case," he said, "I don't see why you should expect payment for it, since you don't believe in it yourself." Dowden believes there is some mystery in Hamlet, but will say no more. Herr Bleibtreu, the man Piper met in Berlin, who is working up the Rutland theory, believes that the secret is hidden in the Stratford Monument. He's going to visit the present Duke, Piper says, and prove to him that his ancestor wrote the plays. It will come as a surprise to his grace, but he believes his theory. I believe, O Lord, help my unbelief. That is, help me to believe or help me to unbelieve. Who helps to believe? Egomen. Who to unbelieve? Other chap. You are the only contributor to Dana who asks for pieces of silver. Then I don't know about the next number. Fred Ryan wants space for an article on economics. Afraid Ryan, 2 pieces of silver he lent me, tide you over, economics. For a guinea, Stephen said, you can publish this interview. Buck Mulligan stood up from his laughing scribbling, and then gravely said, honeying malice, I called upon the bard Kinch at his summer residence in Upper Mecklenburg Street, and found him deeply in the study of Sumna contra Gentiles, in the company of 2 gonorrheal ladies, Fresh Nellie and Rosalie, the coal-key whore. He broke away. Come, Kinch, come. Wandering Ignis of the birds, come, Kinch. You have eaten all we left. I will serve you your orts and offals. Stephen rose. Life is many days. This will end. Thank you. And on behalf of the Rosenbach, have a wonderful day.
Once and my little shy little lass has a waist so Bloomsday 2020 is made possible through a generous grant from the Consulate General of Ireland's Immigrant Support Program. This project is also supported through the Pennsylvania Humanities Council, the federal state partner of the National Endowment for the Humanities. Special thanks to Lenny Steiner and Perry Lerner, and to the South Jersey Celtic Society. Thank you so much for supporting Bloomsday 2020.